A little before the lunch hour here on the bridge, and welcome in. Thank you for coming along. It's not often we get to talk to a group who's not even playing in Kansas City. Frightened Rabbits on their way, by the way, to Minneapolis for a show tomorrow night. They graciously stopped into the studios. This indie rock band out of Scotland getting ready to finish their U.S. tour in about a month. They're going to head for Europe, and they'll be talking about their brand new album, Painting of a Panic Attack. Let's go down to Studio A with Jon Hart right here live on the bridge.
Now, there's been a lot of anticipation around the station because once we found out this is happening, it just can't happen soon enough. We love the work. We're joined by Scott and Grant Hutchison of Frightened Rabbit. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having us.
It's just the new record is called "Painting of a Panic Attack," and it's just a brilliant piece of work.
Thank you so much.
The title comes from a line in the first song, and it really does kind of set up the rest of the record.
Yeah, I think it kind of it's an umbrella, as a title should be. It's an umbrella for what the record, for me, encapsulates the idea. And we've been doing this for a while, but I think this album captures it more starkly than the others. Is the contrast between this kind of beauty in the music and then sort of dark, twisted nature of the lyrics, and that painting. You know, a beautiful painting of something awful is sort of the idea.
Your mother did say that it's a healing album.
She did. I don't know what she's healing from, but I mean, it's like, are you all right, Mum? But yeah, I think that means she likes it.
But there is great beauty in this record.
Thanks. I mean, well, a lot of that is to do with Mr. Dessner as well. He's really brought a sort of sense of. It's quiet grandeur. It's not all out epicness. I think that's one thing that we tried to steer away from in this album. But we can only do so much of that. But fewer guitars, I think, as well.
Yeah. So you've been well known for recording in bedrooms, cupboards, kitchens. This time around, you've gotten to the point where you have a permanent studio in Glasgow, but you did spend 2 weeks in a studio near Woodstock. And when you got done with that, you weren't particularly happy.
Well, we've never been in the position where we get halfway through an album and have a chance to assess it at that point. We had 2 weeks off. And if the incident was, I went to the park, I was like, I'm going to take some notes and, we'll see what we have to do in the next session, which was a couple of weeks away. And I got like 3 songs in and, almost broke down. It was, there's a lot to do.
But it was, I don't know, it was literally drums that we recorded there. I don't know, I purposefully didn't listen to it, because why would you listen to a record halfway through finishing it, if it was a painting? You wouldn't get halfway through and go, beautiful.
I know, I wish you told me not to.
Well, you didn't tell anyone you were going to do it. You just went off and came back and drank 12 beers. But yeah, that was a halfway through, and we'd also Aaron in Dreamland just outside Woodstock, the studio. We're in just beautiful old church, really lovely sounding studio. He could not stop talking about his garage in his back garden, and we were just like, can't sound that great, Kind of does.
Kind of did, yeah.
Yeah. So you moved to the second half of it was at the garage.
Yeah, exactly.
In Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And by the way, we should probably mention that the producer that you're referring to, Aaron Dessner, is, of course, in the National.
Mm.
And, so when it's one of those things, and I just see this over and over and over. It's like change is where the fun is. You want to change, you want to grow.
Yeah.
And then when change comes around, it's like, whoa, wait a minute. Right?
That's exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can talk the talk, but then it comes to like, I want to put another guitar on this song. It's kind of like sort of begging your dad to let you do something fun, and then Aaron's there going, no.
Or just
no.
Just ignoring you.
Actually, that was what he often did.
One of his tricks. Yeah. Like it's like you weren't there. You're kind of looking around going, anyone else hear me say that?
That's not happening.
But which is frustrating. But when you listen to the finished product, it makes sense. He his kind of ear for space in a song, and that creating this big sound without using the tactic we used, which is literally to layer instrument upon instrument upon instrument to make it physically large, rather
Just
than
an enormous file on your computer. Yeah.
and he that's not his style,
Yeah.
you know, which is great, because it really forced us into this area that we, like you were referring to, that we weren't really that comfortable with.
You know, emotionally in the studio, I got the sense that one of the things was that maybe there'd never been anybody in the studio that had matched your intensity, Scott.
I'm not sure. I mean, Aaron, I think, is used to working with uber musicians, and I guess, you know, there's something about us that we're not that, but what we do very, very honestly, and I suppose intensely. Yeah, you know, I mean, you pile a few intense thinkers in a studio, and there's not going to be sparks, because those kind of people don't like arguments. There's going to be just like, I'm going to walk out of here now, and I'm going to be quiet for a little bit, and then I'm going to come back and try and gather my thoughts. But it's, yeah, you know, it's the whole process of making an album, I come to realize is, you know, is actually 50% communication. You know, it can't just be, I'm going to go and put all the tracks down, and then we'll come out with an album. It's like there's so much talking involved, and and I think that's something that you just have to develop over time.
Well, we've got Scott and Grant in the studio with Frightened Rabbit. We'd love to hear some music if we could.
Yeah, this song is called Get Out. I'm in the arch of the church, between her thumb and her forefinger. I'm a worshipper, a zealot king, curse, a devotee, had golden than she does. She's an uncut drug, I find the vein and a pulse, I chased it, and for a minute I was floating there above myself. Get out of my heart, she won't, she won't. Get out of my heart, she won't, she won't. I saw a glimmer in the dark, and now I know she won't get out of my heart. Oh, she won't. I'm in your purse, pull me out, throw me down, and stick me to your lip and draw a scarlet O. There's a name on my chest in red, the embossing of a branded bull. And I don't want you to get out of my heart, but she won't, she won't. Get out of my heart, but she won't. I saw a glimmer in the dark, and now I know she won't get out of my heart. Oh, she won't.
I just absolutely adored that. That was a good reason to be alive, right there.
Okay,
Yeah. When you guys, the last album, the one before this, Pedestrian Verse, was kind of a bit of a breakthrough.
Yeah.
And when you have that much success, people want the success to be even bigger, so they start working you harder, right?
This did happen last time, and I think it's a good and a bad thing, it means that things are going in the right direction if you're working extremely hard on it. And nobody in the band is afraid of work, but when you do, at the end of that tour, 3 months solidly, with, I think someone in a crew calculated 6 proper days off in that whole time, that's going to have an effect, especially on, we could do that. I think it's funny because we could do that in our 20s.
Well, that's definitely it. You get to a certain age. I'm not saying we're old by any means, but for this kind of thing, it's like, we certainly can't do that to that extent anymore, and there is a balance, and it's just about finding that between being overworked, not doing enough. There's somewhere in between that
Or writing a much less successful album.
Writing a rubbish record.
That was purposely. We just wrote an absolute stinker. Yeah. So we didn't have to do as much.
But it's like Frightened Rabbit. You guys are well known for, bringing a certain level of intensity. Scott, I know you do this with the lyrics and the age-old question. Would you trade a happy life for a really bad album?
I have thought about this. I mean, I've had a happy life. I mean, it's not all been bad. I think that there's... no, I think I'm drawn to very extreme emotions on both ends of the spectrum. They may well be a bit masochistic in that way, and that I find... I don't want to get too deep into it because it starts to get like a little bit naughty, but I find pleasure in anything that's extreme in that way, and so I don't think I have a choice in the matter because it's sort of the way that I'm made up. But yeah. Ask me when I'm 40 and I'll be like, I just want to have a house with a garage in the back as well where I can just stay and make music. So, but I think that is a very difficult question.
Yeah.
And I don't really know the answer.
Yeah. Maybe there isn't one.
Maybe I'll come back and see me in 10 years. Right?
So at the end of the tour, y'all were pretty crispy, and I think the label actually suggested that maybe a solo project as a palate cleanser. So Al Jon.
Yeah, they did. I think the guy that we work with directly at the label, he came to me and he said he was like, I was kind of worried that there wasn't going to be a band anymore because we hadn't actually personally had any real problems with each other. It was just everyone was so exhausted and tired of. I think especially Grant and I and Billy had essentially worked on Frightened Rabbit for 10 years with no real break from that. That was our focus in life, and then so to do the Al Jon album gave everyone else a break in a way as well. I worked on it. It was a solo, quote unquote, because I worked on it with Simon and Andy from the band, but it was a necessary thing to regain. As you say, it was a palate cleanser, to regain some excitement about the band again.
So then you tried living in L.A. and you rejected L.A. like a bad organ.
I don't know. I think it rejected me. I can't say for. I know plenty of people who love that place. That's because they have a very good reason to be there. My only reason was my girlfriend at the time, and I just had problems assimilating into what is quite a closed community in a lot of ways. I had some. There are fantastic things about Los Angeles, and I had beautiful trips to the desert, to the mountains, to the Pacific coast. But in the end, if the only reason you're living somewhere, if the best part of it is escaping it, then you should probably just escape permanently.
So while you're there, you're writing lyrics and trying to get some things going, and your brother emailed you and said, meh.
Yep. basically. It was.
Did you read that email? It was exactly.
It was a voice memo. Yeah. It was. Well, yeah. The things that Scott was sending us, because we were doing this kind of, like you mentioned, the studio in Glasgow, and we were doing things there and sending it over, and vice versa. And what Scott was sending, it was just it. It wasn't that it wasn't bad. It just when you know how Scott writes and you listen to the lyrics and you're that close to it, when there's a lack of honesty there, it doesn't wash, and I could tell it wasn't. It was like someone else was writing it, basically, and that's kind of what I said. I was like, this isn't you. You're not allowing yourself to write, from your heart, I guess. There's something there that you're holding back.
So I got annoyed for 2 days,
yeah,
and then realised that he was right.
But this is,
and it was,
is like Scott mentioned earlier about communication. Actually, weirdly, having that LA Glasgow situation kind of opened up communication in a way, because it was over email. There wasn't that awkward thing of having to say it to someone's face and get an instant reaction. And also when you got those comments, you could take 2 days to kind of take it in and, get angry, go through the emotions to come back round to the understanding where that person's coming from. And that kind of helped with the writing and the demoing, because when you're in the same room and you go to someone, I don't really like that, then it's quite likely they're going to storm out, or going to react angrily back to you instantly. So
those early lyrics were kind of an experiment on your part, weren't you? I mean, you were trying to take yourself a little bit out of it.
I was.
And that's what he thought the problem was.
Maybe so. I think I often start albums in this way, in that I have this grand idea that there's going to be a concept. I'm going to try and do, I really admire lyricists like, Craig Finn, who can craft a story that isn't his own life and build characters and do it really effectively. And then I realized, like, why am I trying? Why would I? I'm not very good at that. I mean, there are instances that made it onto the album, but those are very much like a half my life and half a sort of, semi-fictional. But yeah, the concept thing, which is just me trying to be smart, I think it comes from my art school days of being an absolute, just, high concepts that nobody else even cares about. So I was forced out of that realm by Grant. And then, because in my head, I was thinking that to continue writing about, emotional turmoil, and not that I was going through heartache or anything, but I was having problems with the city that I lived in. I thought that would be a step backward, but then I realized that's why I started writing songs. That's also why I need songs, because if I don't write about these things, then they have nowhere to go. And so I gave them a place to go in the end, and it was the right thing to do.
It's an absolutely gorgeous record. It's Painting of a Panic Attack. It's new on Atlantic Records from Frightened Rabbit, joined this morning by Scott and Grant Hutchison, and we would love to hear another song.
Okay, this is called I Wish I Was Sober. Fall free to the blizzard head, wrap my hand around the glass again. We all thought that I might change as I got older. Fell down and nothing bled, wrapped in cotton and alcohol again. Well, to the hilt I hear from the upon my shoulder. Free pour the fruitless thought, it's far too late to talk so much, but still not giving up, though I wish that I was sober. Forgive me, I can't speak straight. Forgive me, I can't. Forgive me, it's far too late. Drove down the gateway drunk, opened the gates, in came the flood. It comes like a blush of love, it hits me without warning.
nights of getting lost, I walk beneath the bridge I don't know. I need a black suit for tomorrow, I'm in mourning. My love, you should know, the best of me left hours ago. So we shove a rug into my mouth and let me smolder. Fall out and the damage done, I can't unsing the things I've sung. Still not giving up, though wish that I was sober. Forgive me, I can't speak straight. Forgive me, I can't. Forgive me, it's far too late. Oh, come and shake me till I'm dry. I wish that I was sober. Oh, come to me and kill the night off. I wish that I was sober. Oh, come and shake me till I'm dry. I wish that I was sober now. Oh, come to me and kill the night off. I wish that I was sober.
Frightened Rabbit in our studios today at the Bridge. That was another great one.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
You know, you got this new beginning, you know, and I think that that's what you were really looking for.
I think so. It's strange to be at that place at album number 5. It's I suppose there's two ways you can go at that point. You can just continue with the you know kind of trundling along, but I think there needed to be. The funny thing about the album that preceded this is I think we reached a conclusion of sorts in that it was a sound perhaps that we've been seeking for a long time and we hadn't quite managed it. You know, we're record upon record, we're sort of trying to get to this place, and then we kind of almost got there as much as is possible with an album. You know, there's always things that you don't like about, but and so that for that to be a watershed and just to move forward with, you gave us a lot of freedom. And there's things that we've only started to explore on this album that we have to explore more, I think. I think we all kind of came out of our comfort zone just a little bit and maybe go a little bit further.
You know, it was, I'm sure part of it was just giving yourself a little bit of space. And Grant, I know you did an 1,100-mile bike ride.
I sure did. Yeah.
But the most shocking thing is you got a drum machine.
Yeah, I know. I really, honestly, my 25-year-old self is, that would never have happened back. I was so anti electronic drums. I just think I really like hitting things, so it's like I don't get to do that. I don't want to press buttons to make it sound to make it the sound of a drum. But it sort of got to the point in the demos where what was being sent through, I was like, well, if I don't do this, I'm not going to be in this band. There's not going to be a place for me in most of these songs. So it was sort of forced into this situation that I probably wasn't comfortable with initially, but it's kind of exciting, like you're sort of limited with a drum kit in a way. There's only so many bits to it and can make so many sounds, whereas this tiny little box is kind of endless. So it was exciting.
Scott, you'd mentioned being a former art student, and some of your time off, you illustrated a book of poetry.
I did. My friend Francis from Philadelphia, he's now my friend. At the time, he just said, "Hey, I've written this book, and I love your music, and I love your art." And again, it came at the right time. I guess I did the majority of it after I'd finished the Earl John album, and it's strange how the shift has occurred in those two things, because when I was at art school, music was a hobby, and I was very serious about art, and now I'm very serious about music, and art's a hobby which I get a sort of a release from, that I don't, because the further down the line you get with music, it morphs and changes into something that's not quite what you started. That's a great thing, but I think getting asked to do this book gave me an outlet that was just, again, something to refresh my palette and have a purpose outside of the band. You can start to feel like, well, this is all I am. Is this what I just am? This defined by this one thing. So, and it's a wonderful book. If and When We Wake, it's called. Francis Dolerio and me, and his poetry is really lovely. So
Reminds me of Brodigan.
of Brodigan.
Yeah.
I don't know who that is.
Richard Brodigan was a 60s sort of counterculture writer. Most of his novels are still in print, but it just kills me that I can't find all of his poetry books.
Okay, I will try and find some of that.
Yeah. I'm going to badly quote one.
Okay.
But one of my favorite poems from Brodigan is just 2 lines. The name of the poem is Impasse. And I think it speaks to my life back when I read this the first time, like decades ago. But Impasse. I talked a really good hello. She talked an even better goodbye.
Yeah.
You know, that's a pretty complete poem.
Yeah. It is. No, that's the thing. His work is so short, and it's almost like tiny meditations and thoughts that can sort of. I also like. I mean, I'm kind of a slow reader, so I like short stuff. That's why I'm drawn to songs as well. You know, but yeah, I encourage anyone. Actually, funny you should mention it. It came out 1 year ago today.
Yeah.
It's 1 year old, that book.
So that was kind of your bike ride. But just like he took on the drum machine, you learned some audio software.
I did.
And it caused you to put down the guitar when you were writing songs.
Yeah, it did. But again, much like Grant, I was forced into it because we'd all relied very heavily, we continue to in a way, on Andy from the band, who is actually, properly well versed in all that stuff. And but because I was, many miles away, I had to learn how to use software on my own. It was a strange thing to be doing at this age, but it opened up this raft of sound that I kind of embraced fully. And yeah, when you have all this exciting stuff, the guitar seems a little bit boring. So I was just delving in there and and a lot of that demo sound, found its way onto the album. Because if it wasn't broke, we didn't try and fix it.
The band goes through this rebirth in the studio, and then you got to figure out how to play it live. You actually did a gig or two as the Foot Shooters.
We did. It wasn't that good of a secret. It's like you do a secret show, but you don't want it to be that secret because
you want more than 3 people.
Exactly.
There.
Yeah. Those were just testing the water, I suppose.
It was nice. Last time with Pedestrian Verse, we went out before recording the album and sort of tested the new songs, which suited the recording of that record because it was far more live than this one. And it was completely the other way around this time. We went in to make a studio album and then came out realizing, how do we make this work? And then get into the rehearsal studio and remember that we can actually play our instruments, because it had been a while. I hadn't sat at a drum kit with anyone else for a good couple of years, which is quite a long time, and you feel a little bit rusty, but we managed to work it out.
Frightened Rabbit in our studios. This has just been absolutely lovely. We'd love to have another song if we could.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm going to do this one on my own. This is by Grant. This is one of the ones I was referring to when it's called Die Like a Rich Boy, and essentially the demo kind of ended up being the version that made it onto the album. So. I need to find somebody to tear me away from the car crime babies and switchblade days, the bark of the unemployment hounds, and the thought of the thick white skull on the ground. I won't die in the bony arms of the state, to be laid to rest in the wake of a faded town.
if the raincoats come to steal my home, there's a big white house at the end of the road. I can see you wrapped in Egyptian thread, in a marble garden immune to the mess. If you leave this world in a rhinestone shroud, we'd finally make your father proud. If I leave this world in a loaded daze, I'd finally have and eat my cake. I wanna die like a rich boy diving in a hydrocodone dream. You can die like a rich girl by me. Oh, how the magazines will grieve. I wanna die like a rich boy bathing in a milk bath I could drown. I wanna die like a rich boy, even if we're as poor as we are now. I wanna die like a rich boy drowning in a lake that bears my name. And you can die like a rich girl by me, flushed and radiant with fame. I wanna lie in state on TV in a golden cardboard crown. I wanna die like a rich boy, even if we're as poor as we are now. Well, I found you now, so tear me away from the feral street they lumped us in. I'll be Shakespeare's moonstruck king. We can lose our minds at the top of the hill, burn cash and carry a decadent flame into the night and beyond the grave.
You know, every once in a while, just a little bit of quiet on the radio is just fine.
It's true. I think it's the kind of thing that I've been listening in a car or something, and you kind of, I'm not saying that happens in that song, but you hear something, you have to almost pull over. Because it's like, it's actually more arresting than bluster sometimes.
You know, we love your band, and it's one of those things you just get assaulted with music when you have one of our jobs.
Yeah.
And when something can fight through all that clutter and really make you feel something when you listen to it, it's a really special record, and you guys do that with great regularity. So a huge amount of respect to you, and we're not going to let you leave until you promise to come back and do a proper show in Kansas City.
We never have. We've never done one here, and I'm desperate to. It's a huge oversight. I'm so sorry to anyone who's listening. I really am.
He's just afraid we're not going to let him leave.
I have nothing else to do today. It's okay. I actually have laundry to do today, so I better.
Yeah. Well, along the way, though, that's I'm sure you do actually have a pretty healthy drive in front of you. You know, being on the road is not easy, and to come in and play music on a day when you don't have to do a show, it's giving up a degree of freedom. And so, again, we appreciate the sacrifice.
It's our pleasure. You guys are great.
We've been joined by Scott and Grant Hutchison of Frightened Rabbit. You can find out more at frightenedrabbit.com. And if you want to pick up that new CD, or album, we just cannot recommend it highly enough. Painting of a Panic Attack. It is new on Atlantic Records. And if you were interested in the poetry book we mentioned earlier, the title is If and When We Wake, and it'll be pretty easy to find with a Google
definitely.
search. Thanks so much for coming in.
Thanks.
Frightened Rabbit on the Bridge.